series on good news, talking about good news for the gospel, good news for hope, news that encourages us, fills us up, strengthens us, news that's good for us. We're going to be in Luke chapter 8, verses 4 to 8, if you have your Bible or would like to turn there. Otherwise, it's going to be on the screen as well. So this is what it says in Luke chapter 8, verses 4 to 8. While a large crowd was gathering and people were coming to Jesus from town after town, he told them this parable. This is what the parable says. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. It was trampled on and birds ate it up. Some fell on rocky ground, and when it came up, the plants withered because they had no moisture. Other seed fell among thorns which grew up with it and choked the plants. Still, other seed fell on good soil. It came up and yielded a crop 100 times more than was sown. When he had said this, he called out, "Whoever has ears to hear, would you let them hear?" That's what we're talking about this morning. The story of Jesus and the story of the parable. Well, it's good to have everyone here. It's good to see everyone. We're talking about this seed and sowing seed and kind of farming. I don't know how much you know about farming. I got to know a little bit about it as my grandparents were farmers. They had a farm. I lived in town, but I'd go out frequently and help them farm. And recently they have a really big garden, have just a whole bunch of different things. I have some pictures of it here. So here's a glimpse of kind of one side of the garden here. They have things like tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, cabbage. Got another picture here, I think kind of the other side of it too as well. They also plant things like sunflowers and different things. They plant pumpkins too as well. Me and Hallie actually helped them plant some of the pumpkins. And the pumpkins we had decorating the church and on the outside were actually from that, which is pretty cool. But it's cool. That's kind of like a panoramic picture where you can see kind of like the full garden. That's not the farm, that's just their garden outside of their house. And so we get the opportunity to do things like this where we're planting some of the crops and stuff. So we would dig the hole, prepare it, put the seed in it, cover back up the hole to get it ready. There's just a close-up. I know, super interesting. Dirt hole. Wow, that's cool. But we're talking about farming. We're talking about good news. Talking about a farmer planting his seed and yielding crop. Jesus' words, when he's talking about that there, we know that he's not talking about planting physical crops. He's not talking about planting seeds that are like carrots. I'm going to plant these carrots and then they're going to grow. He's talking about things that have more impact than just physical crops. He's talking about our spiritual health and he's talking about our mental health. That the things that we reap and that we sow have more of an impact than we see. And Jesus continues on in his words. In the same passage, continuing on in Luke 8. I'm going to read that for us. Continuing on in verse 11, he said, because the disciples asked him, what does this mean? Like, what are you talking about? Is this just physical crops? And so he says, this is the meaning of the parable. The seed is the word of God. Those along the path are the ones who hear, and then the devil comes and takes away the word from their heart, so that they may not believe and be saved. Those on the rocky ground are the ones who receive the word with joy when they hear it, but they have no root. They believe for a while, but in the time of testing they fall away. The seed that fell among thorns stands for those who hear, but as they go on their way they are choked by life's worries, riches, and pleasures, and they do not mature. But the seed on a good soil stands for those with a noble and good heart, who hear the word, retain it, and by persevering produce a crop. So that kind of shows us a glimpse of what Jesus is saying there when he's talking about planting these seeds, planting this soil. He's talking more about the posture of our heart, talking more about our heart and our mind and our openness towards God. Talked about how are we open to God? What are we thinking towards God? I don't know about you guys, but does anyone have like a comfort show? A show that you turn it on and you're like, oh, this show comforts me. This TV show relaxes me. I feel really good when I'm watching it. It kind of builds me up and strengthens me. It's something that I enjoy. Well, as we read Galatians earlier, I think it really kind of puts all this together, kind of explains what I'm trying to get at here, this Galatians 6, 7 to 9. that we reap what we sow. That I reap what I sow. That you reap what you sow. This is what Galatians says. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please their flesh will from the flesh reap destruction. Whoever sows to please from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Is this starting to kind of click and make sense here, Jesus' words and what he's saying? Saying a farmer can go out, I can go out and I can plant carrots, right? Say I go out and I plant carrots. It's a couple months, it's getting close to the time for the carrots to kind of mature. I go out into the field, I go and look for the carrots, I go and cover it up. I'm not going to find chocolate. I'm not going to open it up and, oh, chocolate's here. I'm not going to open it up and, oh, there's corn here. Like, no, that doesn't make sense. I sowed carrots, so I'm going to reap carrots. What I planted was carrots. So what's going to return to me is the carrots. And Jesus explains this same way in relation to our soul and to our mind. If I go out and I'm sowing and I'm listening and I'm planting things that are of fear and of worry, and all I'm thinking about, all I'm planting, focusing, listening to is worry, all that's going to return to me is worry. All that's going to return to me is fear, and I'm going to receive that return. But Jesus says, those who fear me, who follow my word and listen to me, he said, if you go out and you listen and you plant love, if you receive love, you're going to sow, you're going to reap love. Like, that's what is going to return to you. That's what you're going to get. You reap what you sow. You plant carrots, and come harvest time, there'll be carrots. We recognize that. And I think that's so good I recognize a lot of time in my life, and time I feel like in life, we can say, where is this anger coming from? Where is this fear coming from? Or where is this worry in my life coming from? Or I try so hard not to worry. I try to avoid fear. I try to avoid sin. I try to avoid these hard things in my life. I try to avoid them. And so I try to fix what I'm reaping. I try to fix my harvest. I try to fix it. I know these things aren't good for me. I know I don't want to keep fearing. I don't want to keep living in anxiety. I don't want to keep living in sin. But what I find is when I try to fix the sin and when I try to fix my fear, nothing ends up happening. I keep reaping the same thing. And that's why it's such good news what Jesus is talking about here. Because he's saying if you fix what is sown, you're going to fix what is reaped. We can't try to change the output. We can't try to change the result. It's because it's what's being put in that's going to ultimately be reaped. It's what's put in the ground that we reap. You plant carrots, you get carrots. You reap what you sow. And it's the same thing with our bodies. I know that if I eat good, healthy food, if I eat food that's good for me, then I know that my body is going to be healthy and so forth. But if I have a consistent diet of candy, as kids ask their parents, why can't I just eat candy for dinner? It's not good for you. It'll release bad for your body. And it takes good parents to know that it's not good for you. No, it's not good for you. You will not grow up healthy. You reap what you sow. Jesus also takes this parable, this principle, and applies it to our hearts and to our minds. Applies it to us. So if peace is planted in my heart and in my mind, I'm going to reap peace. The harvest is going to be peace. If love is planted, then I'm going to harvest and reap love. If joy is planted, this is what I'm going to harvest. And so forth with all the fruits of the Spirit that we know are patience, kindness, goodness, love, boldness, power, peace, love, joy. So my question for you, for me, for us to think about this morning is, what are you reaping? What are the things that you're reaping in your life? What is the fruit of your life? And do you like the fruit of your life? Do you want it to be that fruit? Because whether intentionally or unintentionally, I know that I reap what I sow. I know that I reap what I sow. I might say I don't like what I'm reaping, but that's what I sowed. So my question for us this morning to consider is, what are you reaping? Are you reaping fruit that you would like? Or are you reaping fruit that you would not like? Are you reaping love or fear, joy or anxiety? The harvest in our life comes from the seeds that we sow. The words that we listen to matter. What I open my heart to matters. And as we heard from Amy in Proverbs 18:21 earlier, the tongue can bring life or death. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. The good news of Jesus Christ, the good news of the gospel, is that God so loved the world that he sent his Son and died for us, that whoever believes in him may have life and life to the full. That's good news, because that means that all I have to do is believe. As Jesus talked about in the seed and the word, the soil, it ultimately was up to if the soil was open to it, if the environment was open to it, if my heart was open to God. If my heart is open to God, God will do the work, because the work has already been finished. His life has been crucified and resurrected. And with Luke, we read earlier in the Bible as well that Jesus went out to proclaim good news. To proclaim good news, Jesus went out. His love and his help, his grace, his peace, his joy, his life to all who would receive him. And he gave freely. But what we also see from the parable is some received it and some didn't. And it ultimately came down to the posture of their heart. For some, it fell on rocky ground. The soil of their heart, their mind was rough. They weren't even really open for it at all. So the words just went in their ear, right out their ear. They didn't even consider it. They weren't even open to it at all. For others, the seed, it withered because there was no moisture. They listened once, they're like, okay, that's good, and then they just put it out of their mind, went right back on their way. For others, they heard the word from the parable, they heard it, but the thorns came, and in their heart and mind they were drawn away by life's worries. The fruit was choked out by riches and pleasures. And then the last thing we see from the parable, the last type of soil, was good soil. The heart and mind was open towards God. We saw that they heard and they received and they bare fruit. And the good thing is about that is they were just open. They were just open towards God. And God did a great thing. God did a great work. So what we've been talking about in good news, that words matter. Words have power. The soil of our heart matters. That if I plant and sow carrots, I know that come harvest time, I'm also going to reap carrots. And it's in that same way, if I plant and sow fear and worry and doubt and anger, I'm also going to reap it. That's why these things such as prayer, reading our Bible, that's why we do them and want to do them, and they're so good. Not because I do it and I get something, but I find that when I pray, when I open myself towards God, this love, this peace is starting to be planted into my heart. When we spend time at church, when we spend time in fellowship, when I pray, when I read my Bible, my heart starts to open up towards God, and these good things are planted in my heart and started to reap in my life. I start to feel peace. I start to feel free from this sin and from this fear and from this worry. When I'm open towards God, and this love, this joy, this peace, this kindness starts reigning in my life. As Jesus said, I came to bring life and life to the full. You may have life to the full. God is open and willing for us to have life to the full. It's just, are we open towards God? Jesus offers his life to the full. The question really is, will the soil of our heart, will our hearts, will our minds be open towards God? What are you reaping this morning? What are you reaping? Do you like what you're reaping? Do you like the fruits of your life, or would you rather have different fruits? Would you rather have things that give you life and joy and peace and strength? The hope of the gospel, the good news, is that you don't have to be bound in fear. You don't have to be bound in sin. You don't have to be bound in shame. I don't have to live my life bound and free and stuck. But I can live life to the full. I don't have to live my life chained to anxiety. I don't have to live my life chained to addiction. That there is freedom. There is hope. There is joy. There is life to the full. So what's the next step? Well, to live this out, and for those that want to live this out, if you haven't, the first step is to open up your heart and give your life to God. For those that have, then the step for them is to be open to God. Open to maybe spending more time in prayer, or maybe making it a habit. I'm going to try and spend 5 minutes a day. When I wake up in the morning maybe, or when I go to sleep, I'm going to read my Bible at that time, or I'm going to be open towards God. Maybe that could be the next step. You reap what you sow. I know that this was very comforting for me, because for so long I was bound in sin, I was bound in lust. I feel like this lust was just raging in me. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop my sin. I couldn't stop my fear. I couldn't stop my worry. And I did all in my power. I did everything in my might to stop this fear, to stop this sin. But it didn't work. It didn't work. I kept trying super hard to avoid fear, to avoid sin. and it never worked. And I said, what's going on here? I believe in God, but it's not working. But when I finally asked God for help and said, God, I'm open. Here I am. Would you help me? He helped me. And I began to open my heart to God, and He began to just love and plant love and peace and joy, and slowly started to reign in my life as it rains more and more. And that's good news.